Magbasa og notes. On this episode of Podcast on the Go, so we talk about Matthias Bube Mendezona's book, co-authored. He's the co-author of "You Can't Save 80 Million Filipinos, but You Can Build Me a Park." Kolaikat siguro. Sab. On this episode of Podcast on the Go, we talk about the book "You Can't Save 80 Million Filipinos, but You Can Build Me a Park," co-authored by the late Roberto Bobby E. Aboitiz and Matthias Bube Mendezona. And he's also going to talk about some book writing tips for me and for you.
15,000 approximately employees there, earning doing jobs that are world class. I mean, most of these folks can go anywhere in the world and work there, but they prefer to work in Balamban. That's what it is today. But the $64,000 question was, what was it before? I mean, when did this start? Who started it? And how did it come to be? And that's what the book is about. It's the early days before there was any development there.
It's like the origin story of Balamban.
Yes. It's not comprehensive. It's only from the point of view of two people, the two authors, the late Bobby Aboitiz and myself. He from the aspect of strategy, because he represented the board of directors who looked at the big picture and said, this is what we want to do there. We want to create an industrial park where a major shipbuilder can set up shop peacefully and can build world-class ships. That's the strategy. And then they bring in Mendezona to say, hey, that's a strategy, you make it happen. All right? And that's my job. That's the difference. So those are the two different versions of the
So
same
it's
thing.
like a conversation.
It is.
Yes. I heard earlier that you're reading like
Yes.
your line,
Yes.
like a script. Like
Yes.
Your line and then Sir Bobby's answers, and then
Yes.
it's a back and forth.
Yes, there's a lot of conversation there. In fact, the book has 4 parts. One is Sir Bobby's story from the broad picture. Then there's one part is mine, Bube's story, which is the man on the ground who made it happen. The third story is the woman on the ground who was a child when it started. What is her story? When she remembers she's 5 years old and she's looking up at, who's this guy? And her tata says, come on, si Bobby Aboitiz na. And his intention is to buy land. And what happened to her? She went to college. You know, she's a counselor in the city.
So you trace.
That's her story. And then the fourth part is it's a business case study for any business student to look at and say, oh, so this is how strategy is devised and this is how it's implemented in the real world. It's not theory at all. It actually happened. That's what it is.
It documented the journey.
Yes.
Your versions of the journey.
Yes. So it's not comprehensive. It doesn't pretend to be comprehensive. It's just two perspectives.
How many pages is it?
The book is, I want to say, about 100 pages. Like I was saying in my remarks, there are 3 basic questions. Yeah. The last question is that, like, well, how thick is it? Tony Moraja doesn't waste his time with small chit-chat. He wants to get straight to the meat. So I told him, Tony, it's really thin.
To be honest, when I first saw the title, I thought it was like a dream park.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it was an industrial
park.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yes. Father Javier thought the same. The guy who gave the invocation,
Yeah.
he thought it was an ecological park.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I briefed him, the 5 minutes before he went on, he went to the back and wrote his notes again. He went to the back, started to write his notes. Yeah. So, what else do you want to know?
So why in Balamban and not in another area in Cebu?
Okay, and that's the part that when you read my part, I think you'll get a little gist of that. And John also gave you a gist where he said, I walked the beach, and to my great surprise, there's fresh water gushing right out of the beach. Okay, and that's what happened to me much earlier when I was buying land in Balamban for shrimp growing. Like he said, the first time we went in there was to grow shrimp, not to build ships. And so I needed fresh water. So I go down there and I find this fresh water right there, gushing. The people who, the labagod sila, they were washing clothes. And I said, how can they wash clothes in the salt water? So I went up to the woman and I said, Manang, saan ba na mo paglabana nga? Salt water man. I said, what many salt water?
Fresh water.
Fresh water man. I said, really? She said, oh, all of us, we're washing here on the coastline, but it's fresh. So I right away got some of it, tasted it. I said, it's fresh water. There's no salt. So why there? We also needed a place near the coastline that had a deep drop off. Deep. Why? Because when our consultants told us in Taiwan that if you raise shrimp in a very high density, very highly concentrated way, you have to control your environment perfectly. Meaning to say, you gotta have full access to fresh water, and you have to have full access to salt water on demand, not when the tide goes up or down, which is the way our grandparents and our ancestors did it. You wait for the tide. Abre ang gate, the sea comes in, right?
Yeah.
That's what our grandparents did. They said, you wanna raise it in a higher density than nature, you gotta control both. So I sent somebody out and he says, Sir, lawam naman kayo ni. And the guy is only like 15 feet off the shore. I said, "Saman ka law? Lawam lang yun kayo." I mean, it was just
cliff.
So that is why we got it. And that's the same reason why when Mr. Kambara came, he saw the drop and he said, of course, this is where you build ships. Why? Because it's much more economical if you can build your ship here on dry land and then you just push it and the deep water is right there, rather than you moving it from a deep interior place and trying to get it out to the coast. That's a big difference in cost. Those are essentially the same reasons. In my account, I have one there where an old guy was listening to me. I had a barangay meeting because that's where I would do things. When I was buying it for shrimp, and he was listening in the back. I said, "Okay, maya man imong explanation dong." He said, "Because it's all in Bisaya." He said, "Pero di ko mutuo nimo." I said, "Sa may mutuan?" No. He said, "Ang inyong intensyon, nga na malit mo biyuta dire. This is 10 years before Mr. Kambara came, ha? 10 years before. Ang inyong tuyo dire lain. Unsa may among tuyo dire no?" He said, "Tanaw ang iyota do. Flat kayo, flat kayo. Nya dili ra ba huyong-huyong. Kahit gyud. Tanaw ang coastline, di ba? Diretso na siya mo drop. Kung mangingisda man ko, ana diha, drop na laong kayo. Okay. Sa kaning lugar na doon, walay typhoon eh. Nga naman no, kumikat na mga bukid, tanaw ng mga bukid. Ang hangin, bundak dito sa Cebu City, di kabot diri. Masangit man siya ng mga kabukiran diya. So kami wa may typhoon diri. I said, so, unsa may among intensyon diri? Mag-imo mong barko diri dong. The old guy told me. And I was surprised. I said, what an idea. What a wonderful idea. But that's not what I'm here for. So, maayo tingali kayo ng idea, no? Pero, sa matinod pa, dili ganda na mong tuyo dere. Dele, mag-imo mong barko dere daw. So, later, 10 years later, I had my operations manager look for him. I said, "Jo, kailan itong katong tawana?" I said, "Oh, pagkitaaro ko ito siya." Couldn't find him anymore.
So from ships, it became ships.
Ship to ships. So if I'm gonna write a book, what will be your tip?
My tip is first this. This is my third book. You want to see my other two books? They're up there in the bookstore.
For a first time
Yeah.
bookmate.
Everybody is a potential writer. Every time an idea comes to you,
Write it down.
write it down. Don't fool around with saying, "Ugma." No. Write it down. All right? And then what? File it away somewhere. Whether it's an electronic file or a hard copy file, file it. Just file it away. And then what? Leave it. Leave it alone. Another idea comes, write it down. You will keep accumulating stuff like that, and at a certain point, you will revisit. You'll say, "Son of a gun, I've got a story here." That's what happened to me.
So how long did it take you guys to write the book?
4 years, approximately.
For this book.
Yeah,
But for your first book,
10 years, 8.
He wants to write the book.
So don't despair, because when I was on my 8th year, I belonged to a book club in California, where I talk to authors and ask them, what do you do, Bob? How do you do it? Huh? And I was walking to the parking lot and I despair. This is year 8 already, right? And I'm shaking my head. And the guy walking with me was older than I. He was 10 years older than I. And he had already published about 6 or 7 books, huh?
Oh.
And he said, what's your problem? I said, I don't think I'm ever going to finish this book. I mean, this is taking so long. I mean, it's 8 years. He said, how long? I said, 8 years. He said, that's just about right. That's about right. That's what he told me. So it's like, hey, it's normal. What are you crying about? What? 8 years? So?
There's hope for you.
Yep. I had to run.
Okay, it's okay.
Okay, thank
So
you very
remember
much.
that. Write, type, I don't care what you do. Save it. Don't throw it away. And don't pass judgment on it. Because you look and say, wait, nada niya kung ilabay. Do not do that. Don't do that. Because as you season and years pass, you'll go back and say, yeah, this one not so good. Oh, holy, this one good. So don't be kind to yourself.
Thank you.
Be kind
Thank
to yourself.